Sleeping alone in a quiet, dark room feels completely normal to you. It feels safe. But for 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors lived by one unbreakable rule: never sleep alone. Not because it was lonely, because it was a death sentence. You think you sleep badly because of stress, your phone, or too much coffee. Maybe. Or maybe your body is still waiting for the sound of other people breathing, just a few feet away. Let's go back to the beginning. Before fire, before shelter, before any of the things that make sleep feel safe today. For most of human history, the night was not a break from danger. It was the most dangerous part of the day. Lions, leopards, hyenas all see better in the dark than you do, and sleep is the one state where a human is completely defenseless. No weapon, no awareness, no ability to run. For an animal with terrible night vision and no claws, sleeping was the single most vulnerable thing a human being could do. So humans solved it the only way they could. They never did it alone. Picture an actual camp from 100,000 years ago. 15, maybe 20 people, lying close together on hides and flattened grass near a fire that's been allowed to burn low. No tents, no walls, just bodies, breath, and the sound of someone shifting in their sleep a few feet away. To you, that might sound crowded, even uncomfortable. To them, it was the only thing standing between sleep and death. The body heat, the closeness, the constant low hum of other people existing nearby. None of it was optional. It was the entire security system. In 2017, anthropologist David Sampson and his team set out to actually measure this. They traveled to Tanzania to study the Hadza, one of the last hunter-gatherer groups on Earth still living close to how humans lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Using small wrist sensors, they tracked the sleep of dozens of people across 20 full days and nights. What they found was strange. Across 13,000 minutes of recorded sleep, there were only 18 minutes where every single person in the camp was asleep at the same time. The rest of the time, someone was always awake, not standing guard on purpose, not taking a scheduled shift. It just happened automatically, built into the rhythm of the group itself. Sampson and his colleagues called this the sentinel hypothesis. The idea is simple. If everyone in a group has a slightly different internal clock, some people naturally drowsy early, some naturally alert late, then across a big enough group, someone is awake at almost every hour of the night. Nobody has to plan it. It just emerges from the differences between people. A sleeping group, it turns out, is never actually fully asleep. This is why your body has a chronotype, why some people are wired to feel sharp at 6 a.m. and others don't wake up until noon, no matter how hard they try to fix it. For most of history, that wasn't a personality quirk or a discipline problem. It was a survival function. The night owls and the early birds weren't different by accident. They were covering different shifts in a watch system nobody consciously designed. But here's what's a stranger. This system didn't just keep people safe from predators, it rewired what sleeping alone actually means to the human brain. In the 1990s, researchers at the University of Chicago studied 95 adults in a small, tight-knit South Dakota community. People who weren't isolated, weren't living alone, weren't lacking in social contact by any normal measure, and measured how lonely each person felt against how well each person slept. The loneliest people had dramatically more fragmented sleep. Not less sleep overall. Fragmented. Broken into pieces, interrupted, shallow. It didn't matter whether someone physically slept next to another person. What mattered was whether they felt connected. Later research confirmed this again and again. Living alone, by itself, barely affects sleep quality. Feeling alone is what tears it apart. Psychologists have a theory for why. Your nervous system doesn't just track whether danger is present, it tracks whether you're protected. And for almost the entire history of our species, protection meant other people, a group, a camp, someone else is breathing a few feet away, proof that you weren't facing the dark by yourself, not company, protection. When you feel disconnected, even in the safest room in the safest city in the world, some old, deep part of your brain registers it as exposure, watching for a threat that statistically will probably never come. But your nervous system doesn't run on statistics. It runs on a program written over 300,000 years, and that program only has one setting for alone in the dark: vigilance. That's why lonely people don't just feel sad at night. Their heart rate stays a few beats higher than it should. Their muscles stay faintly tensed, the way yours would if you were waiting for a sound in another room. Deep, slow wave sleep, the kind your body actually needs to repair itself, gets harder to reach. You're lying perfectly still, but some ancient part of you is still standing watch by the fire. Now think about what modern life actually looks like compared to this. For 300,000 years, humans slept in groups of 15 to 20 people, all within a few feet of each other, in the open, with no walls and no doors. Today, a huge number of us sleep completely alone, in sealed rooms, in buildings where we may not know a single neighbor's name. We've replaced the warmth of overlapping bodies with a locked door and a phone on the nightstand, and we tell ourselves that's safety. In some ways, it is. No one is checking the tree line for predators. But your body was never built to evaluate safety the way your mind does. It wasn't built to read a lock and feel reassured. It was built to listen for breathing. So when you lie awake at 2 in the morning, wired for no reason you can name, it might not be stress. It might not be your phone. It might be something far older. A body still running the only program it's ever known, scanning a silent, empty room for the sound of people who used to always be there. And logic doesn't reach it. You can tell yourself you're safe, check the locks twice, remind yourself nothing has ever happened. None of that touches the part of the brain doing the worrying, because that part isn't listening to your reasoning. It's listening for a sound that hasn't come from people who aren't there. This might explain something else strange about modern sleep. Surveys consistently find that a huge share of people fall asleep faster and more easily with some kind of background presence nearby. Your nervous system isn't asking whether a real threat is present. It's asking whether you sound and feel accompanied. For a brain built across hundreds of thousands of years of group sleeping, the presence of another living thing is enough to turn part of the alarm system down. You live in the safest sleeping conditions any human has ever lived in. Climate control, locked doors, walls no predator on Earth could break through. By any rational measure, you have less reason to feel unsafe at night than any generation before you. And yet, a huge number of people lie awake anyway, hearts faintly elevated, minds circling, for reasons that have nothing to do with anything actually in the room. That gap isn't a malfunction, it's a mismatch. 300,000 years built a brain that needs the sound of breathing nearby to fully stand down. A few hundred years of locked doors removed that sound almost entirely, and nobody updated the program underneath. Here's the part that actually gives this whole story a way forward, instead of just leaving you lying there at 2 a.m. with an explanation and nothing else. Researchers tracking this have found something almost hopeful. It isn't just real physical presence that calms the alarm down, it's perceived presence. On nights that follow a day with more genuine social contact, people fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. And the effect is strongest in exactly the people whose alarm is the loudest to begin with. This is also, almost certainly, why so many people sleep better with a dog curled at the foot of the bed, or a partner who barely moves, or even just the low murmur of a voice coming from a phone propped against a pillow. None of those things can fight off a predator. None of them are doing anything close to what a circle of 20 Hadza sleepers actually did for each other 100,000 years ago. But your nervous system was never built to evaluate the difference with that level of precision. It's built on a much cruder rule, one that stayed almost completely unchanged since before your species had language. Something else is here, breathing, alive, nearby. Stand down. Some of the threat detection can finally switch off. That's not a fix for everything. It won't undo a difficult year or replace real human connection or make a genuinely lonely life feel full. But it does mean the ache you feel lying awake by yourself isn't random, and it isn't a flaw unique to you. It's the oldest, most predictable response a social animal can have to an environment its body never agreed to. For nearly all of human history, you were never expected to face the night alone. There was always a body a few feet away, a fire someone else was tending, a watch being kept by whoever's chronotype happened to line up with that exact hour of darkness. For 300,000 years, the cure for that feeling was never far away. It was just a few feet across the fire, breathing in the dark, exactly when you needed it to be.